On today's episode, we have our week 2 recap. We are covering trends that are real and here to stay. We're sending some culprits to fantasy jail, and we're going to be airing out some of our bad takes. And Milk was a bad choice. Keegan, we are very excited to talk about a certain wide receiver in Milk was a bad choice. So stay tuned. And these episodes are time-stamped. If you want to jump around, listen to some of our trends, see who our bad takes were and what we learned from it, you can jump. Timestamps are here available in our episodes. If you are watching this video right now, odds are you care a lot about fantasy football. If you care about fantasy football, you should be subscribing to this channel. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and turn on those notifications. We are coming to you 3 times a week to give Sunday recaps, waiver wire analysis, and weekly matchup previews. You are not going to want to miss out on all the content we are dropping here on the RTM Regression to the Mean channel. All right, fellas, week 2 recap. We now have 2 weeks of data. Some trends from week 1, they weren't as sticky. Turns out Zay Flowers wasn't going to get a 50% target share each week. Others are very real. Puka Nacua is the greatest receiver of all time. We each brought some trends to the table. I don't know Keegan and Aidan's. This should be a fun discussion. So kicking things off first, Aidan, what is a trend that you're noticing from the first 2 weeks of this season that you think is going to stick for the remainder of the season?
Yep. I'm going to go with one that I was entirely wrong about all summer, and that is Anthony Richardson is here to stay. I wasn't completely sold on the rushing floor, along with his he's a much better passer than I anticipated too, and like the entire package overall, plus just like the scheme that he's in, is pretty safe. Like his floor weekly is, you're looking at probably 15 points minimum every week with his rushing floor and ability to get in the end zone at least once via the air or on the ground. So obviously he left early today with a concussion. Hopefully we get to see him back next week or maybe a week off. But dude, the guy's a rock star. Things just look really easy out there for him. So yeah, Anthony Richardson looking like he's probably going to end up as a top 10 QB play, barring any significant time missed.
He scored 17 fantasy points in 1 half today. So even if you started him this week, he got you there. It would have been nice to see what he could have done in this matchup. I wanted to highlight it in the matchup previews. We skipped out on it, but that was one of the easiest overs that you could have at 39.5. Keegan, you were a big touter of Anthony Richardson during this process. Aidan was a fader. He's capitulating on this trend, so it's nice to see Aidan give in here a bit. Are you thinking A-Rich is here to stay? Do you think he's only going to improve?
It's actually my first topic of discussion as well here.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, it was pretty easy for me. Like I've been talking about this all summer a lot with you, Shaun, and we've covered a lot on the podcast. But like, he didn't even play a full half. I mean, he left like midway through the second quarter and already had 17 points. Just from doing damage on the ground. And like, you go back to last week, and he gets his first rushing touchdown of the year. Also throws a touchdown, and he had a pick. But he also threw the ball 37 times, like went for 223 yards and 10 carries for 40 yards last week. I mean, he was on his way to a monster game today. And so, yeah, I just put it here. Like Anthony Richards is a top 10 QB play weekly, without a doubt.
I just fear about the injuries. He's already left both games that he's played in early to injury. Like, I watched the concussion. It didn't really look that bad. When he scored, he got up.
He probably doesn't go out. Like for the entire game, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, without the protocol. And I'm not saying that's the right decision to like stay in the game, but like that's just today's game. I don't really think he's like of any worry. Like the Jacoby Myers concussion from last week was way worse than what Anthony Richardson had. So
for sure.
Yeah, all concussions are kind of scary. Regardless, hopefully he's able to suit up next week, keeping our fingers crossed. But I think his ability as a passer was super slept on. I had high expectations, but him being like a low ADOT, quick thrower, quick processor in Shane Steichen's offense really wasn't on my bingo card. I think it's really a credit to Shane Steichen, and we've seen Philadelphia's offense look a little disjointed now with their new offensive coordinator with Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. This guy really knows what he's doing, really innovative scheme. I'm a big fan of what they're doing in Indianapolis, and yeah, I don't even think we should even have Anthony Richardson in our start-sit discussion. He's like a top 8 play weekly. I think it's pretty set in stone. He's already done it in 2 weeks, which is pretty impressive for the quarterback out of Florida. So I actually didn't have Anthony Richardson. I didn't really want to be so on brand and predictable and chalk. My first one is kind of random, but I just want to shout out Brian Robinson Jr. for the Washington Commanders. This guy, Aidan and I did our who's going to be this year's Ramondre Stevenson, where it's just a year or two back, gets featured going a little bit later on in drafts. And I thought it could have been Dameon Pierce. We thought it could have been Rachaad White. We didn't even have Brian Robinson in that discussion, and he is really fitting the bill as a year two breakout running back. He played 6 more snaps than Antonio Gibson on Sunday, but he ended up out-touching Gibson 18-2. Since Antonio Gibson fumbled in the second quarter of week 1, here's the touch distribution for Robinson and Gibson. 35 touches for Robinson, 5 for Gibson. Robinson has scored 13.6 fantasy points and 28.9 in back-to-back matchups. He now has 3 TDs on the season. He's clearly the guy in Washington. He looks great. Every time I see him getting the rock, he looks good. He looks good as a receiver, which he actually did catch a ton of passes in college and then was a non-factor in the receiving game. I think Brian Robinson's a easy top 15, top 16 play. He might even have more value than James Cook, who we touted and loved, because James Cook doesn't even get chances to score touchdowns, even though he brings them into the red zone each drive. So I had to shout out Brian Robinson. I know it's not the sexiest trend on the slate, but man, he looks fantastic this season.
It's funny you bring up James Cook. One of my things that are here to stay is James Cook has a capped ceiling on fantasy production. He just will not be the goal line back or even an inside the red zone back for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, last week, the only player to even get an attempt inside the 20, 10, and 5 out of him, Murray and Harris, was Harris. He was the lone back to actually get attempt inside that. And then obviously today you see Latavius Murray and Dameon Harris both get cracks at the end zone, in kind of goal to goal or inside the 5 situations. And James Cook is just not a part of that game plan. I mean, he was a fantastic, he looked fantastic today as a running back.
He looks good. He looks really good.
Looks really, really good.
Passes the eye test. Yeah.
He did all of that, goes for almost 150 all-purpose yards, and he ends up with 19 fantasy points in PPR. You say that number, and you're well, that's a great start, right? But think about the numbers he'd be doing if he was getting an opportunity to run the ball in from the goal line, or at least get an attempt inside the 10 or the 5. I mean, you're missing out on so many points with James Cook, and I just think that trend is going to be very sticky throughout the year. He's definitely going to have to have a couple home run balls to really explode. And there's nothing wrong with a running back that gets you 15 and 19 points a game. Nothing wrong with that, but I just don't think James Cook is ever going to explode in this current state of their offense.
Yeah, it's a massive bummer. And this is something we all kind of predicted all summer. I don't think this is a surprise by any means, but it's more so just being reinforced to your point, Keegan. If he's not hitting the home run, or at least, scoring from outside of the red zone, Latavius Murray comes strong on inside the 10 pretty much every possession.
Insane, by the way. That it's how good Latavius Murray. I remember watching this dude rush for 1,000 yards when I was in high school, when he was a Raider, and this man's out here getting vultures.
It's insane. It makes sense. From a football perspective, I get it, dude. I get it. He's the bigger back. He's, shown time again. He's good in the red zone. So pretty brutal. But it is what it is.
So James Cook scores 19.9 fantasy points in week 2. This is from Dwayne McFarland. 58% of the snaps, 52% of the attempts, 54% route participation. He had 11% target share, but only 20% of the snaps inside the 5-yard line. If he starts to see that creep up to 50%, his ceiling is really solid, but through 2 weeks, it clearly seems like they favor Murray and Harris. So he's a between the 20s back and a great offense, which is great, right? We drafted him in the 7th round for that reason. You didn't have to pay a huge price, and I feel a lot better about my James Cook bags than my Dameon Pierce bags right now.
For sure.
My goodness. And that's a trend too that I have here. It doesn't look like it's going to happen for Dameon Pierce this year. He has 4 out of 5 starting linemen hurt. The Texans are super pass happy. Their defense is terrible. They go down multiple touchdowns to the Colts aren't that good. They were getting smacked. Like, they were down 14 points off the jump. He doesn't really get receptions. He has 26 carries for 69 yards. He's averaging 2.7 yards per carry. He only has 4 receptions. He has back-to-back RB40 finishes. I guess, like, maybe you hold out hope because this team can get better as it goes along. They get their offensive lineman back, but it was like dead on arrival. I'd turn on that game, and he'd get the ball, and there was just nothing. There was nothing for him in that offense.
Yeah, I don't really think it's not really his fault. Like, Dameon Pierce is a good running back, but it's just an awful situation for him. It's a bummer because you draft him in the 5th or 6th round, maybe even 4th, depending on how late you drafted, right? Like, but it's just going to come down to like matchup dependent decisions for him when it's starting, and like that's not what you want in your first 6 picks of a fantasy draft. Like, you just, like, those are the guys you set it and forget it and don't ever take them out of your lineup. And now you're having to seriously consider when and where you can play Dameon Pierce. And it's just not good.
He's going to the bench for Kieran Williams next week. Didn't think I'd be saying that.
You
by
should
week
definitely
3,
be doing
but
that.
that's happening.
He's not who we thought he was. Speaking of guys who is who we thought they were, this is a guy that I was pretty out on all summer. Alexander Mattison is exactly who I thought he was. It's through 2 weeks. It's just like, it's really not very impressive. If it wasn't for a 5-yard touchdown in week 1 where he finished with 13 points, this week he had 8 carries for 28 yards, 3 catches for 11 yards, and a fumble. Like, to start with, we talked about it all summer. Like, this offense doesn't run the ball very much. They were bottom 5 in rush attempts last year. They're going to lean on Kirk Cousins in that pass game, and that's just what they're going to do. Nothing really changed in terms of their coaching or personnel, and it's like, we shouldn't be surprised that that's what they're doing. So Alexander Mattison, to your point of guys that are like not locks for your lineup given where you drafted them, Alexander Mattison should be, under the microscope. If you like Kyron Williams, I'm for sure starting Kyron Williams over Mattison. Like, there's a lot of other guys. If you picked up a guy like Zach Moss should be in your lineup going forward. Like, there's so many guys that I'm starting over Mattison. I don't know, man. He wasn't very good behind Cook, and surprisingly enough, he hasn't been very good with his touches this year. So, that's a bummer given where he got drafted.
The O-line doesn't look very good.
Nope.
Their defense is not very good. I think that this team is going to be in a lot of negative game scripts.
Oh, yeah.
And when he gets targeted, he doesn't really do much with it. I think his only saving grace is I don't think Ty Chandler's very good. So I don't think Ty Chandler's really going to push him for touches too much. Maybe they get him a little more involved. But when it's third down, it's a lot of CJ Ham, their fullback, who gets run.
It's crazy.
So I don't know. He is who we thought he was. And I think in plus matchups, you're going to roll him out semi-confidently. In negative matchups against the Eagles, you're probably going to put him on the bench. And as your 5th round pick,
bummer.
Yeah, those 5th round running backs, those dead zone guys look brutal right now.
Yeah.
Like, brutal. Like, it's tough. I mean, a running back who hasn't been brutal though, and a guy who we thought who he was, is the posse, Tony Pollard.
I've got him too.
The fuck up for the posse. Tony Pollard has 48 touches through 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He had 33 opportunities in week 2 to Rico Dowdle's 8 to Deuce Vaughn's 6. He's the RB4 through 2 weeks with 2 really weird matchups. He's clearly a top 3 weekly play, and he's not going to be in a ton of games where his team goes up 40 immediately, or like they're playing one of the best front sevens in the NFL in the New York Jets. Like, these are weird matchups for Pollard, and he's still getting home, and he's a total bell cow. They're just feeding the man. It's kind of a joy to watch.
God, yeah. My headline here was Tony Pollard is the workhorse we had all hoped for. It is so cool. Like, to your point, like the fact that he sniffed damn near 20 points today against that Jets defense was awesome. Like, the best is probably yet to come with him. Like, 33 touches against, a far inferior defense, and we're talking about 30 burgers. Like, we're talking about massive days for him. The fact he didn't really do well on his goal line touches, but again, is a testament to the Jets front 7. Like, dude, that's a brutal matchup, but dude, his volume is so cool. The Deuce Vaughn and Dowdle touches are super frustrating, but it's like, I'm just
Can't get
getting
'em all.
yeah, but I'm getting
Can't get 'em
greedy.
all.
Like he touched the ball 30 plus times, and I'm here yelling at my television. I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's fair.
More.
I know.
More.
I know. Turpin, get to the sideline. I'm like, no, dude,
More.
relax.
Get number 9 out of there.
Yeah.
Just screaming at Mike McCarthy.
No, the posse is standing up, man. All 10 toes. We are firmly up with the posse.
I'm all in on the posse as well this year. Somebody else that I've always been all in on, and I will forever be all in on, is Mike Evans, and he's going to be just fine with Baker Mayfield. There was a lot of worry, and we kind of worry, but I mean, I like don't know if it's just because of my player take bias and my like absolute love for Mike Evans, but I never really like wavered off the fact that I thought he'd still reach 1,000 yards this year, and like. He was a player who was my start of the week when we recorded on Friday. And like one of the things I pointed out last week, 6 receptions on 10 targets. He went for 66 yards and a TD. And like, that's nothing crazy, right? But I mean, he was Baker's first read on 38% of his snaps last week. Still waiting for that data to come in. It'll be interesting to look at it. But today he goes absolutely turns the clock back. Classic Mike Evans, just 6 receptions, 8 targets for 171 yards. And one of the coolest no-call push-offs for his long game against the Aidan's Bears.
That was bullshit.
But he absolutely ate. I mean, the guy's on pace for 2,000 receiving yards, and dude, Baker has got some fucking fight in him this year. It is awesome to see. But yeah, I have it down here. Like Mike Evans will be just fine. Good players are good players for a reason, and like. We can't forget that Mike Evans played in bad situations before Brady, and it's not like he'd always had a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing him the ball. Like he's ate his entire career.
This is like 5th quarterback. He's gone crazy.
He's QB proof.
And I put like a little side note too. Like Chris Godwin should be fine as well. Like this team is also coached really well. Like mind you, this is the offensive coordinator from the Seahawks last year. That was really really good with Geno and their team. So I enjoyed Mike doing that today. Like that was really fun. I'm enjoying him turning back the clock a little bit and kind of proving the doubters wrong. And shout out to Baker too. I mean, Baker went crazy today. He was 14 for 17 on under pressure and threw for 223 yards under pressure, and also threw a touchdown as well in that whole scenario, and ended up going for 300 passing yards today. So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the Bucs skill players, they should be just fine. Now, can we just get some K-Dot and love soon? And then I'll be happy.
He had 10 points. K-Dot. Okay, so my trend that I have is Baker is this year's Geno Smith. So, like, going into the season, it felt that way, right? People were calling it out. Like, hey, what if we just dropped a highly drafted quarterback who's had some success and put him in an offense with 2 really good wide receivers and see what happens, much like Geno Smith last year. Mike Evans has scored 47.7 PPR fantasy points on 18 targets. Chris Godwin has scored 20.9 PPR points on 14 targets. Baker has scored 18 and 20.3 fantasy points in weeks 1 and 2. You called out Dave Canellis. He's the new OC for the Bucs. He was with Seattle last season. They play at a higher tempo. They're passing more. This is a really good scheme. And we knew nothing about how they were going to run this offense. I read a piece by Tyler Dunn before the season started, and I was reading what Dave Canellis was saying because he was talking about Rachaad White and this whole new look offense, and I was pretty excited by it. He seemed like a super competent dude. But what we've seen through 2 weeks has been pretty impressive, and Baker looked great. Yeah, under duress, under pressure, playing well. Who knows if the 2 teams that they beat are any good in the Vikings and the Bears? But regardless, these are 2 teams that they probably were projected to lose both of these games at the beginning of the year. So shout out to the Bucs. They've been fun to watch. Shout out Rachaad White, my start of the week at running back. He finally, if he couldn't get home in this matchup, I was a little nervous. It still looks a little weird. He doesn't look natural playing running back, I'm not going to lie, but we're going to get there with Rachaad. So we're pumped about it. But I'm pumped about the Bucs, and Mike Evans was one of the best like contrarian plays in fantasy, right? Where it's like everyone says he's gonna suck, so why not just take him? This is Mike Evans. When has he ever sucked? Like when is Mike Evans?
He was so
ever
cheap
sucked?
too. He was like a 6th round pick this year.
7th rounder. Yeah,
it was like the value just got kind of stupid. It's like, all right, I'm just taking him at this point. Like worst case, he's your wide receiver 3 or 4, and it doesn't pan out. best case, he finishes as a wide receiver 1 again. He's a top 10 play, which is looking like a possible outcome through 2 weeks.
We're 20 minutes in the episode and we haven't talked about it. We haven't talked about the greatest wide receiver of all time. We haven't said his name yet.
Just do it. Say his name.
Puka Nacua is going to be a top 24 wide receiver even when Cooper Kupp comes back. That's the trend.
Yeah, there's no running from it anymore. Today, he had 20 targets. 20 targets. Even if Cooper Kupp comes back and takes half of that, like he's a weekly play especially until Kupp's back. Like even when Kupp gets back, I think Puka Nacua is in lineups until further notice.
He's got 35 targets through 2 games.
Silly, absolutely silly.
Cooper Kupp has never had 35 targets in a 2-game span in his career. I'm not saying he's better than Cooper Kupp. I'm just saying the kind of volume that he is getting right now, and for preface, he has 10 more targets than the next closest wide receiver, who is Justin Jefferson. The rookie has scored 22 and 30 points. He had a 30-burger in the second game of his career. Matthew Stafford has attempted 38 and 55 passes in the first 2 weeks. This offense is going to pass the shit out of the ball, even if he isn't getting the most targets in the NFL when Cooper Kupp comes back, which they are saying Cooper Kupp's coming back week 5.
It's crazy.
Nacua, you're playing him. And he might even score more touchdowns because they have to scheme against Kupp. It's remarkable. I don't know if he's going to be able to get through 17 games. The way the Niners were just punishing him every time he caught a ball, it was brutal how he looked like a running back with the amount of touches he was getting out there. But Keegan, you said it was 0 points against the 49ers. Was that your projection you had for him? You said you couldn't play him against the Niners. So what do you think about Mr. Puka Nacua through 2 weeks? You think he's legit?
We could have saved it for Milk was a bad choice because I had in here just doubting the Rams in general because I was pretty out on the running backs this week, both like Kieran and Cam Akers, which Cam Akers
too.
Same.
Who's gone? Cam Akers gone.
Cam is gone.
Kieran Williams is
where did that come
locked-in starter.
Where
no
did
idea.
The scratch come from? He's got to just be like an issue in the locker room. Yeah,
McVay hates this guy.
Yeah.
There's no other way to describe this.
My whole thought process is just like it's the Niners, and 2, rookie wide receiver, like obviously filling in for one of the best wide receivers. Like what he did, was the first week was obviously fantastic, but it's like I also have to like confirm with myself and see something before I buy all the way in. Like that's how you get locked into something. And like I've got locked into plenty of takes before. I'm not like new to that, but it's just like it's all like being careful before I like dip my toes in. And like for the record, I started Puka Nacua in 2 leagues this week and I bid lots of money on him. Like I also played that side of it. Like I just
hedge. You benefited greatly.
I want to make it very clear that like I was just taking a stance on the fact that like you have to see it to believe it. And like today is a great test for this. Like Shaun, you mentioned some of the stuff, but like and Milk was a bad choice. I was going to highlight like second in the league in receiving yards right now, obviously, which is crazy. First in the league in receptions, which was fantastic. Most catches by a player in his first 2 games in NFL history, all that shit. Like it is amazing. It is incredible. Like, but it's okay to wait. It's okay to wait. And yes, I was pretty hard on him, and I did not think the Niners would just allow him to like kind of run around like that. And like my biggest issue though is I'm also doubting the Rams in general and Sean McVay and just Matt Stafford and like their want to win. Like I kind of penciled them in as like a preseason tank team, right? Like they're going to be in the Caleb sweepstakes. Like I kind of just like, and it's dumb because you shouldn't assume that sports teams want to tank. They really don't. Like that's just not in their cards. They don't want to do that. But like I got locked into that take and like I'm willing to admit that I was definitely wrong about it. But like I said, I started Puka in 2 leagues and I mean, he went off. So it's not like I didn't completely miss out on this. I'm not like one of the guys who like don't spend your money on Puka, but because I did and it worked. So I just want to say like I was wrong, but I was also right.
It was a fair fade to be cautious this week.
I just wanted to see it. Doing
it was
the best defense, one of the best defenses in the league is phenomenal. So I'll give him his credit. That was incredible today. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
With Nacua, and this is to everyone that listens, this is why you get aggressive on FAAB. at the beginning of the year. If you see a young player or person go off in the first week, that's why you get aggressive. That's why when we talk about Tank Dell tomorrow, you should get aggressive. Young players that are able to demonstrate that they are good in the NFL typically are able to do that over the course of the year. And if you swing and you miss, you swing and you miss. But if you hit, it's league-winning potential. So if you have a FAAB scoring, that's why you go all in. That's why you put down 80% of your FAAB on Joshua Kelly. That's why you need to do that, all right? That's important. No, but seriously, I said Max Bid on Puka, and Keegan did his impression of me where he's like, Max Bid, Max Bid.
Max Bid, Max Bid.
I did. I laid down a sizable portion of my bid. And yes, I did come after you. And like I said it about Tutu Atwell too. And Tutu Atwell had another good game.
Tutu looked great. That's insane.
He was coming off an emotional Jets game too. Like he was coming off the Jets game too. So like emotions were flying. Keegan is fully forgiven for
there was
I doubted
animosity.
Stafford. I doubted Stafford as well too.
He
like,
looks
I just
great.
didn't think he cares. He looks great. Like
they're very well coached. Like coaching really does make a difference in NFL. Like
I might have been dumb
awesome
in the take in the moment, but like I prepped myself. All right, I'm in on Puka. I've got the shares. I've capitulated. I'm on your side. We can drop it. Let's stop picking on me now.
Let's go. Okay, other one that I have here, I remember getting texts at the beginning of the season, maybe a week before the season, where it was like, what's going on with CMC? I'm getting these alerts that the 49ers are going to ease him in. They're going to limit his touches to start things off.
Yeah, that's on him.
I think the trend that's sticking is CMC's going to get like 300 touches. Going into the year, again, those reports were saying he was going to be eased into action. In week 1, he had 83% of the touches, 25. In week 2, 100% of the running back touches in 23. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we do there with that information. As a Niner fan, I hope they ease him in a little bit. Going into this Thursday night game, I hope we see a little more Elijah Mitchell. But CMC is like
he's a beast.
The undisputed RB1. I mean, Austin Eckler did miss this week, but he looks fantastic. It's the focal point of this offense.
Yeah, I don't know where those reports came from because what we've seen through 2 weeks, that does not look like being eased in or kind of like having someone split touches with him. It's full speed ahead for CMC owners.
Any other trends? I've gone through mine.
Yeah,
I've got on the table right now.
I've got one more. Just speaking about just like top draft capital. JJ was the 101 for good reason. He might finally like buck the 101 curse. Like this dude's averaging 10 catches and 150 yards through 2 games. He doesn't even have a touchdown
Nobody's even
yet.
talking about it.
No one cares. If it wasn't for the dumbest rule in football where he fucking fumbled out of the end zone on Thursday, like this dude would have nearly like 60 fantasy points through two games. It's like it's ridiculous. He's on pace to be the best wide receiver of all time, and his 101 draft capital was absolutely warranted this week. Absolutely.
The last one I just had is, and we already knew this going into the season, but this is just like so confirmed. It's like Kansas City, like pass catcher by committee. I don't even have it as wide receiver by committee. Kansas City pass catcher by committee. 12 different people caught a pass for Kansas City today in an awful game. Like a slow, ramped up.
Sky caught a tutty.
Sky
caught a tutty.
Guy catches a touchdown. Kelsey catches a touchdown. But I mean, like only Kelsey and Tony had at least 5 targets. Like if you go down their like stat list, it's like 3 reception, 3 reception, 3 reception, 3. It's like you want to avoid it at all costs. Like trying to pick who's going to play well there is a nightmare. And yeah, I just put it like Kansas City pass catcher by committee all year, basically. And we knew that, but it's fully confirmed.
Tony's the wide receiver. They're like hell bent on getting him the ball.
They love him the way like fantasy analysts love the mystery of Tony. Like they are like us. They are just like us.
They love him as they're Tony Bros.
Yeah, they are Tony Bros through and through, just
Andy
like
Reid, Pat Mahomes, they're Tony Bros.
But that was
Sky
the
Moore's
last one.
signs of life. He had that deep, like broken play at the end of the game. Not a touchdown, but he had like 50 yards in that. And he caught a tutty. So at least like I was real close to dropping Sky. He showed some signs of life. If Tony is on the waiver wire, he is in Del Mar, by the way. He needs to be picked up.
I'm good.
He needs to be picked up immediately.
I'm more for you guys,
bro.
More
he
for
just
you guys.
does. But that's it. Any other trends? Are we missing anything else? No. And it's just the football was so good today. We got no touchdowns last week. We got no touchdowns last week. Got a ton of touchdowns.
Scores were up so much more. Like, you look at the scoreboards this week compared to last week, and it's like, it's pretty night and day.
I guess another trend, like before we send some people to jail, is the Bengals. This is
Joe Burrow's
they look
hurt.
disjointed.
Burrow,
Burrow's hurt.
he's hurt again
Super
now,
hurt.
and they claim he didn't re-aggravate until like the very end, but what the hell is going on? Like, it is such a stale, like, it's just like, it's not working at all. It's just, I don't know what's going on out there.
It doesn't look great. And then the Ravens looked awesome. Even though they look like they're figuring out a brand new offense, I am very much liking this new version of Lamar as a drop back passer because he is
Super
very
accurate,
capable.
super
he is
accurate.
very capable of being a drop back passer.
Yep.
But that's it. You guys want to send some people to jail?
Let's do it.
Oh,
All right, let's cue it. Let's cue it.
You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail.
I want to say something. Arthur, you had a really good week, man. You know, we might be able to loosen up this sentence in fantasy jail. That was a hell of a win. See, you throw the ball a little bit. Drake London gets involved. Jonnu Smith gets involved over Kyle Pitts.
Galaxy.
I don't know.
Galaxy.
Maybe we get Kyle Pitts some of those screens you were throwing Jonnu. I don't know. Maybe let's make it easier for Mr. Kyle Pitts to be involved in this offense. But you had it working with Bijan. You had it working with London. Ritter was looking kind of good. He's not that accurate, but he's like a way better version of Mariota. So maybe, Arthur, we're going to loosen up your sentence. Maybe when Kyle Pitts catches a touchdown, we're going to let you out of fantasy jail. Okay, Arthur? That's it. We're feeling good about that. I've got something to say to Dan Campbell, though. Do you guys have something to say to Dan Campbell? How do you guys feel about that?
I have a handful of things to say to Dan Campbell, actually. It's I'm not happy with him.
So when they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs 12th overall, they showed the war room, and like Brad Holmes was so juiced, he was gonna like sock somebody in the face. It was like that kind of like testosterone juiced about drafting somebody 12th overall. They talk about how much they love him. He's the man. He's the future, whatever it may be. Week 1, they ease him into action. He is 70-30% split in a game that they have to win. Not have to win, but come on, you got to win it. Home opener against the Seahawks. He's kind of involved, getting targets, whatever it may be. David Montgomery goes down with an injury. And it becomes pretty clear that Jahmyr Gibbs is not necessarily playing running back. He's playing like joker or a hybrid position. And Craig Reynolds comes in and starts out-touching Jahmyr Gibbs as a rusher. Look, if you don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is good enough in pass protection, why are you drafting him 12th overall if you can't trust this guy in pass pro? Why are you drafting him 12th overall if you can't give him the rock when your game's on the line? You're getting Craig Reynolds involved. Each time Craig Reynolds got a carry, and I'm sure Craig Reynolds is a great guy, great family, a kitten died. Each carry, there was a kitten out there in the wild who passed away each time he touched the ball. That's what happened today when Craig Reynolds was getting the ball. What are we doing? Why are you taking the guy 12th overall? Like, what is the plan here? And I've heard people say, hey, you didn't draft Jahmyr Gibbs to win weeks 1 through 5. You drafted him to win weeks 12 through 17. I'm not going to go to the playoffs if I have Jahmyr Gibbs at this point with the way he's used. Do you got this guy running like outside X wide receiver just running routes down the field? Is that really the best use to get this guy the ball? Like, what are we doing here, Aidan? Like, why are we taking this guy 12th overall if that's the plan?
No, it's an absolute disaster. I picked up Zach Moss on waivers last week, and he had twice as many fantasy points as Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, no disrespect to Zach Moss, but it is wrong how they are using Jahmyr Gibbs. And I feel like we keep getting reports every week, and it's like, oh, like we're really gonna like let the beast fly this week. And you're like, oh hell yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs is getting 20 touchdowns.
He's JD McKissick.
I know.
That's
like,
they drafted him to be fucking JD McKissick on their
got
team.
7 yeah, like to your point, it's like they don't trust him as like a true running back. And it's like, why are you drafting him at 12 then? Like, there's other needs on that roster. Like the Lions, are a much better team, but like, what are you doing drafting him there if you don't plan on giving him, like Bijan type touches all game? it doesn't make any sense. It's awful. And the receiving like volume this week was sweet. Like, don't get me wrong. What I think it was 9 targets.
25% target share. Great production as a receiver. But come on, we saw the juice week 1 against the Chiefs. No. We know that
he needs to be touching the ball. He needs to be touching the ball more. It's that was, especially with David Montgomery down. It was like, oh my God, yes, like I love you, David Montgomery, my guy. But what are we doing? It was so clear it was time to unleash Jahmyr Gibbs at that moment. It was like, Craig Reynolds, strap it up. I was like, this is unacceptable. Jan, put your hands behind your back, because guess what, buddy? You're going to jail. You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Keegan's like, I've loved the usage as a David Montgomery drafter. He's like, this has been awesome. Great job, Dan.
I have Gibbs in 2 leagues as well too. I mean, it's super frustrating. I started him and I started David Montgomery. It's like, and now Montgomery's hurt, and we're going to get a full fucking dose, like a turkey baser full of Craig Reynolds next week. I can't fucking wait.
Jail. Oh my goodness.
I've got one, and I'm not sure who the guilty culprit should be here. It could be me. It could be the Chargers. It could be Josh Kelly. I'm thinking of maybe making it Austin Eckler. Don't go on a podcast that is widely watched by thousands of people and tell the world that Josh Kelly needs to be rostered, because if you're going to do that, I'm going to roster him.
He bumped his bags.
I mean,
with Eckler out, it felt like, dude, wheels were up for
it was
massive
a tough matchup.
Dude,
matchup. Tennessee
the biggest problem is, even if it was Eckler, like that would have been a 10-point outing easily, no doubt about it. Like, Josh Kelly is not involved in the pass game. Check down. There's no involvement in him outside of running the ball, and he got 13 goddamn attempts. It's not like they trotted him out there for a couple drives, and he didn't do anything with them. Please don't go on a podcast. I love that Eckler talks about fantasy football and he cares, but like, do not go on a podcast and tell me how important your backup is and that he has standalone value. Don't tell the world that, and then watch him go out there. You're on his team, damn it. You knew that was going to happen. I mean, you knew it. Like, you knew that could happen. Why did you do that, Austin? Yeah, I think it's Eckler that I want to put in jail. I mean,
we can't put Austin Eckler in fantasy jail. Austin Eckler's a fantasy
Eckler, Eckler, the podcaster, not Austin Eckler, the fantasy player, the analyst, because I'm just like, I'm watching a game and I'm like, first off, like, the Chargers are going to lose to the fucking Titans. Second off, this is awful because I've got $20 to spend for the rest of the year, and I've got holes in my roster, and my RB1 is already missing games, and I thought I solved it up, no problem. And here I am staring down the barrel of the league that I care about. I won the rest of my leagues, and I'm sitting here looking at a game where I'm going up against Aidan, and I'm down by 7 points. I'm looking at a 3.9 point outing from Josh Kelly, and I'm like, yeah, no wonder I lost. No wonder I fucking lost today, because some guy wanted to go on a podcast and tell me, you should have this guy. Josh is a guy we've been excited about all summer. He's a guy that we really believe in. Of course he did. Every running back looks great against the Dolphins. Fucking stupid, dude.
Oh, you're tilting.
I should be able to get a refund.
Just a tough.
It's like when a celebrity was selling NFTs. It's like, Matt Damon's into crypto. That means I need to buy crypto.
You should be able to return your bad waiver pickups and recoup the difference between your bid and the next highest bid, and then he'll go to the second bidder's team. Oh, so there should be a rebate program. So I get $50 back and you get Josh Kelly. That's how that should work.
Geez. That'd be a nice little thing. That'd be a nice little thing. At the owners' meeting next year, we need to maybe table that.
The more I say it, the less I like it, but I think I probably belong in jail. I think this is just a me personal thing. But yeah,
so you're going to jail. Is that the verdict on this one?
Yeah, I guess we're being an idiot.
I've got another one for fantasy jail.
Do it.
What are we doing with Jordan Addison? What are we doing here? Why are we running him out? It's the starting wide receiver, and then he clearly plays less snaps than KJ Osborne. Why start him and then not make him the starter. The guy brings so much juice to this offense. He's barely played, but he's been a top 30 wide receiver in back-to-back weeks because he's caught 2 long touchdowns. He looks phenomenal. You are 0-2 as a team. What are we doing here? Maybe your team wins more games with Jordan Addison out there with Justin Jefferson. And Kirk Cousins looks phenomenal. The offense looks great. I don't think it's the offense's fault. But what are we doing here? I get it. There is a higher pecking order. I get it. KJ Osborne seems like a great dude in the locker room, established veteran. He even caught a touchdown. But when the guy is clearly better, and the guy being Jordan Addison, than the veteran, like, let's just play him. Like, I get it. There's a human element that we don't understand. But come on, Jordan Addison's already better than KJ Osborne.
Yeah, the usage has been kind of baffling. And, like, because he's been scoring, I don't think it's, like, that highlighted and people care as much, but no, he should be out snapping and getting more targets than KJ Osborne on a weekly basis, 100%.
Kind of a calm fantasy jail this week. This is what happens when I do this well in fantasy. Is there anyone else heard us?
I've got one. And it's one that I'm not calm about because it is ruining my fucking life, guys. And this one's a package deal. This is a BOGO. Luke Getsy and Justin Fields are going to fantasy.
Not a BOGO.
Luke Getsy and Justin Fields are going to jail. Because I don't know who's more to blame here, but I know that they are both guilty offenders. It is, starting with Luke Getsy, the scheming is just truly terrible. He has completely taken away any type of designed QB runs in this offense. He's pretty much forcing Justin Fields to be Jared Goff, just a pure pocket passer. We're not even moving the pocket for him. Like, we are doing zero service to Justin Fields in terms of this scheming. But then you look at Justin Fields, and it's bad, dude. The guy looks worse this year. He is staring down open receivers. He is happy feet in the pocket. Like, there is so many problems with this offense, and I still don't know who's more to blame here. I do think it's Getsy for putting him in a bad position to start with. Like, we're throwing screens like 2 out of every 3 plays. It's awful, but Justin Fields is missing wide open shots. He's through 2 weeks, he's been QB 15 and QB 20, and he's unrecognizable. He had 3 yards on the ground today.
Malpractice.
If it wasn't for the rushing touchdown early on in the first quarter, we're probably looking at sub 10 points for him. So it's bad. This offense needs to change pretty fast, or else that pick he spent on Justin Fields is it's looking bad. Like, he's borderline benchable going forward. It's a disaster what the two of them have been cooking up this year.
How many fantasy points has he scored?
Total?
Has he been kind of decent?
No. He has
14
scored.
and 14?
Yeah, good for QB 15 and QB 20 for the guy drafted is roughly QB 4 or 5.
QB 5.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable. But, and again, I don't know who's more at fault. But, yeah, welcome to jail.
The design of the offense, again, he's throwing these screens. He threw that pick 6 that was so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. But the design is
that shouldn't be the play call. Like, the scheme has been so bad. It is so bad. I want him fired.
This is a sad jail. I don't really want to send Justin to jail.
No, he's going. He's already behind bars. I already locked it.
Heard it from the man himself.
I already threw away the key. Sorry, Justin.
This one's sad. When Mac Jones looks like the second best quarterback from that draft just being an all-time L is the all-time quarterback class, and none of them are
did not see that coming.
Lawrence. Yeah. Wow, I just got sad thinking about Trey Lance. All right. Any other culprits for sending to jail? Or is that it? We're good?
Let's get to some milk.
Let's get to some milk. Okay. Time to air out some of our bad take.
Milk was a bad choice.
All right, so we said to not start Dak Prescott this week.
Yeah, we're all on
Dak
the hook for that
pretty
one.
Good. Yeah, Dak looked
It
pretty
didn't
good.
end
How many
up
points he
being
finished
the
with?
worst milk, though. He was QB 17. He had 19 points, which...
It wasn't anything crazy, but that would have been a viable start.
This wasn't a full glass of milk, but we took like 2 or 3 sips and like threw it back up. But like it wasn't the worst.
This is kind of like almond milk. Like you got your latte and you forgot to ask for oat, but you got
Yeah.
almond instead. Like that's kind of what this is here.
It wasn't the worst outcome, but like you're looking at yourself like that's on me. I messed this one up.
I mean, he kind of balled 31 for 38, 255, and 2 touchdowns on one of the best defenses in football.
Good for
I mean, it
19
was our
points.
That's a
I
good
mean,
day.
it's nothing.
That's a
It's
good
good,
day.
but it's nothing crazy. I mean, you poured the cereal before you realized you didn't have any milk. That's kind of what this feels like a little bit here.
Yep.
I'll take it. We'll all take it. We're on the hook for that one.
Yeah.
I already went over my
our
Rams stuff too, but yeah, I mean, I was all out on Kieran Williams this week, and
He scored 28 points. He had 10 targets.
I played against him in the league, and I was just yelling. It was like, dude, because he was getting so many targets. too. I was
RB2
like,
on the week, dude.
Fucking
What the
tackle
fuck?
him. Take him out. Take him out, dude. Oh my
As
god.
somebody who watched that game as a Niner fan, it was kind of remarkable how good he was. I was like, this guy is
He looked really good. He looked
unreal.
Really
like,
good.
what is going on with this offense? That is
They're
going to
be in games on a weekly basis. They are officially moved into the scrappy category. They're into the scrappy category.
Beyond, dude, they hung with the Niners.
Yeah.
They hung with the Niners. They're
They
so
were
well
winning
coached.
at multiple points, weren't they?
They were up 17-10.
Yeah.
They looked great. Now, Stafford was throwing a perfect game, and the minute he made a mistake, it was kind of over. Like when you have that big of a talent disparity, it's very hard to win in the NFL. But
Yeah.
hell of a game there. Our starts of the week were Daniel Jones at quarterback. That looked like an all-time milk was a bad choice. Like Aidan guaranteed 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, and it looked
Absolutely
bleak.
called my shot.
It
Called
looked
my shot.
bleak.
though.
And then Danny made it happen. Our
It
guy,
was-
Daniel Jones, saved the Giants season. I don't want to, that sounds hyperbolic, but the minute they kind of just said, fuck it, Daniel, do your thing.
Fuck the Giants
went
season. He
ballistic.
survived my he saved my survivor pool. Screw their season. That was the sweatiest sweat I've ever had to go.
I wanted
through
them
in
to
a
lose so
Survivor.
bad, dude. I wanted them to lose so bad. I was like, damn it. How did these fuckers get away with this, dude? It was so close. So close.
26 for 37, 321, 2 tutties, an INT that was not his fault, 9 carries, 59 yards, and a touchdown.
On the nose.
They're-
2 through the air, 1 on the ground, baby. I'm your guy.
Their next 4 games, at San Francisco, home for Seattle, at Miami, at Buffalo. Do you know how important that win was? That was literally season saving. I
For
know
sure.
That sounds dramatic. And Keegan had Geno Smith, who had 23 points. That was great. I started Rashad White. Rashad White came through, my guy. I sat Dalvin Cook. That was a good sit. So
That's a good
I went
sit.
2 for 2 here.
That's a good sit.
Any milk was a bad choice
Yes.
there for
I've got one. So this was one that I talked about with Keegan, and I have to put my hand up on this one because I could not have been more wrong. I said Chris Godwin would outproduce Mike Evans this week. I was wrong. That was a full glass of stale milk. I'm in the hospital from that one. It wasn't even close. It was like a 20-point difference. So left hand up. That's on me.
I had
Raiders reference.
going through the starts. Jared Goff is a start. I had that as well. James Cook, Mike Evans, like all really good. Milk was a bad choice outside of the Rams. I already owned up to that. I'm sorry, people. But Luke Musgrave, this is another situation where I'm just like, the opportunity should have been there for him, but it just wasn't. I mean, this is another great game environment for him, but like just not a good outing again. Like he ran the most routes of any Packers pass catcher today, and he ran 23 routes, but he only earned 3 targets off there. A lot of Jaden Reed usage today. He was obviously the favorite target and kind of a weird, stinky game, but I'll wear that. George Pickens, another sit to be determined. We'll wait on that tomorrow. Rams running backs, yeah, I got to eat that. And then Kyle Pitts, told you not to start Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts was not great today. So I drink a lot of bad milk this week. My milk is quite literally blue and yellow, and it's
Oh gosh.
That's
the color of the Rams,
I-
and it's gross.
Oh goodness. I said my start of the week at wide receiver was Puka. I'm going to take that to my grave when I die. Put that on my tombstone. Week 2 start of the week.
Yeah.
Puka Nacua against the Niners. I told you to sit Cortland Sutton. 11.6 fantasy points.
Not terrible.
I don't know. You probably
Shout out Marvin Mims
and,
today.
Hunter. He played.
So cool.
He ran 5 routes.
You're lying.
He ran 5 routes today.
They don't ask
I don't
how.
like
They
that.
just
What are
ask
they
how
doing?
many.
Oh my goodness. Get them. That's fantasy jail. Why isn't play your best players? I don't care if they're fucking rookies. Little Jordan Humphrey is getting. I don't even have Mims, and I'm tilting. He ran 5 routes today. He had 2 catches for 113 yards and a tutty.
I'm gonna try to sell him.
I said start Hunter Henry. I said start Hunter Henry. That felt pretty good. I guess early season things can change, but I had some off-season takes that I might need to take out of the fridge and throw out. I said Justin Fields was my number 1 priority target at quarterback.
He's making me so sad. Like, I'm already just thinking about like having to like retire the Justin Fields jersey with the Mitch one, and it's just like,
oh no, dude!
I'm
please
tilting.
Stop buying those. Just please.
It's just like I can't believe I'm in this cycle again where I'm like, I'm thinking about like, I wonder what QB we're gonna have next year. It's just
no.
I feel so bad, and he just looks so sad all the time on the sideline. You're just like,
he's got a resting pout face. That's for sure.
he's not a.
I'm not
guy.
gonna do season long takes yet. And Milk was a bad choice. We're 2 weeks in.
He gets
a
a few
lot
more
can
weeks.
happen.
He gets a few more weeks. He turned it on
a
week
lot
5
can
last
happen.
year. He turned it on week 5, but
Well, when they let him run.
yeah,
I don't know. Do they not want to get him hurt? Like, why aren't they running?
I have no idea.
Come on now.
I think
You guys are
Getsy
coaching-
is just on drugs. He's pulling up off an 1/8 of mushrooms and just picking random play calls, and it's a miserable
That pick
experience.
six was so bad. He threw a screen. Like, why would you throw that screen?
They're
when
throwing
you're
a
on, like,
screen on their own
4-yard
3 to
line?
start with, but like it was a pretty athletic play. Like, I don't know.
Shaq Barrett.
Sure, like you
Oh,
probably
my
shouldn't throw a
goodness.
pig there, but it's like, dude, the guy just fucking turned around out of nowhere.
That's such a dangerous screen.
Like put his
pass.
fat paw up there. Yeah, dude.
Oh my goodness.
I was pretty dairy free this week. I said start T again. He was a top 5 play this week. I did say to sit Drake London.
That's Milk was a bad choice. You'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll wear that one.
Why didn't we cover that? It's like, yeah. Aiden texted the group. He's like, man, I'm
That's
so
such a
back.
read.
All my starts and sits were so good.
No,
Drake London 6 for
You're on the hook for
67,
Dak.
1
You're
tutty,
on the hook for Drake London.
7 targets.
On the hook for
I also said-
Godwin.
I did say to Sid Gibson. That was good. That was good.
You just went on a tirade. You just said "fuck you, buddy," and you threw him in the
That was just out of pure. I also said
just spite Sid.
start Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta was good again. No,
What's Sam Laporta do?
He had 11 today.
Around you. Okay, we'll give him that. 11 points at tight end is the greatest start of all time. So good job.
I was in my bag this week. I was in my dairy bag.
Wow. That was week 2. We got week 2 in the books. This week we have waiver wire coming out. We have our matchup previews. Week 3 preview. I can't believe we're already almost 3 weeks in, guys. That is
It's going too fast.
No, let's just get it over with.
Thursday night. We'll be recording Wednesday evening. We're gonna be handling that because I'm gonna be traveling, and we're still figuring out when we're gonna do waivers. So we'll figure that out. All of our content will be dropping. All content schedule stuff will be dropping on Twitter. Look for that, or X. Before we jump, Keegan, anything you have to say to the listeners?
Don't let your friends bully you into doing something that you believe is wrong. Stand up for yourself and believe in what's right. Trust your gut. If your gut says you don't need to spend more than $40 on a player on waivers, then don't do it because your gut is right. Always go with your gut. Second thing I noticed from this weekend, play your good players. I don't care if Zach Wilson is playing quarterback. Garrett Wilson can take any ball to the house. I don't care if Baker Mayfield is playing quarterback. Mike Evans is Mike Evans. Play good players in fantasy. Don't overthink it. Those are my 2 words of advice for our listeners.
But that was the advice for starting Josh Kelly was don't overthink it. Come on. This guy looked great week 1. Chargers are going to be peaking. Give him the rock. And what happens? What do you know?
I wouldn't be as mad
scores
if I didn't spend my
3.9
whole
fantasy
budget.
points.
I could have swallowed the pill. It's about the money.
The best part is that he's going to be really good when Eckler plays. So you're going
And
to
I'll never start them both. I'll never start them both. I'll never do that. So now
be
he's just going to
crazy.
sit on my roster as insurance.
If you drop him, I'm going to cry. That's so good.
No,
So
he's just
good.
going to
Aidan,
sit on my
before we
roster
jump.
all year.
Do I have anything else to say? No, better luck next week, Keegan. No, I'm kidding. No. Yeah, no, it's just I don't know, man. Just like free the Bears, free me from the misery. It's just everything's dark.
49ers to win.
Bang,
Oh.
bang, bang.